8:02 a.m. for the weekend. It's another Island Tea here on WINNFM 98.9 and
Good morning. I have 8 o'clock right here, and my name is Azard. Gumbs, and with me is Jamsa. And next week we're supposed to be having a brand new co-host to join me. So I will not reveal who that person will be. Of course, listen out from next week Monday. The individual should be here in studio, and so it's going to be a new addition to the Island Tea Win FM's morning program, and so we are just buzzing with excitement. So there are going to be changes as we go along, and so that is one of them. So
there definitely will be changes.
Yeah, but we can't tell them about the changes now, Jamstar. Then you lose all the excitement. So the show is going to be going through some changes, and of course it's only for the better. And so we have some local news that I want to share here today, this morning. We have Prime Minister Dr. Drew gives commitment to addressing mole situation at police stations. I think, Jamsa, the mole situations have been something that has been plaguing government offices for some time. We have one here that says SKN media professionals engage in a CCCCC media sensitization workshop and tour. We also have Antoine Galloway sentenced to 3 years and 6 months in prison. We have Nikira Nichols to represent the Federation at the Federation's youth at the United Nations. So those are some of the local news that we have that I've shared. I've seen something on Loop News that kind of sparked my interest and perhaps might spark others' interest. It says Grenada government fires Labour Commissioner after 3 months. So after 3.5 months on the job, the first woman to serve as Labour Commissioner has been fired because she did not work out to be the good fit with the staff at the Ministry of Labour. It was disclosed on Thursday. Labour Minister Senator Claudette Joseph told a press conference that the Public Service Commission terminated the 2-year contract of Valerie Thomas, who began serving in the post from November 12th, 2022. It says that, and I quote, it says, upon review of the state of the relationship as requested by the Public Service Commission, it was decided by the Commission and the Ministry that it will be for the best of us to go back to the drawing board in search for a Labour Commissioner that fits with the personnel, Joseph said. She did not want to say what triggered the review. Joseph, who is also Attorney General, said Thomas also did not fit with the Dickon Michel administration's general outlook as it seeks to take steps to improve the labor climate in Grenada for workers, employers, and the members of staff of the Labor Ministry who are delivering on the services of the stakeholders. Wow. So after 3.5 months on the job, Jamster, the new Labour Commissioner was fired.
And she's pretty though. Yeah.
Yeah, she has a good smile, a nice smile. Yes. Here it says IMF approves US 1.7 billion for Jamaica. So the International Monetary Fund Thursday announced that its executive board has approved a total of US 1.7 billion for Jamaica, the majority of which will provide insurance against risks from higher commodity prices, a global slowdown, tighter than envisioned global financial conditions, and new COVID outbreaks. So Jamaica has been approved US $1.7 billion from the IMF.
Well, here's what I find interesting. 7 minutes after 8 o'clock, folks. Island Tea, good morning to you. Another weekend on the way, and the first weekend in March 2023. You might find this interesting. A High Court judge has ruled in Barbados that the prohibition of public officers engaging in active politics is unconstitutional and inconsistent with the rights to freedom of expression and association outlined in the Constitution of Barbados. So I'm thinking this is gonna snowball into maybe a region-wide
Yeah, it already
thing, I
started in
think.
Antigua before. We had it here in St. Kitts and Nevis.
Yes,
It's in
because
Barbados. I read the article yesterday.
I was always funny, so my instincts were right. I've always had issue with that.
I think what the I think
know?
what the court is saying too, it must somehow interfere with the proper function of their duties. If it is that their engagement in public office would interfere with their proper function of their duties, then that is where the issue lies. And because before, in the general orders of Barbados, it would have been a one brush takes all approach, where it
Yeah.
is whether or not you are low ranking or high ranking, your involvement would have been prohibited. And I often think about the fact, maybe let's say that you're employed in the government offices as, for janitorial services. Would your involvement in politics really hinder your performance as, providing that service, the janitorial services?
Exactly.
Yeah. It
Is
might be a next question if it is your higher up in the service, the public service. And I think that's where they have to look at the categories of persons who might qualify.
I like what the judge said. The judge said the regulation is overly broad, disproportionate, and cannot be reasonably justified in a free and democratic society. That's what I always thought, but I thought maybe I was out to lunch. But so clearly this judge.
In
side
fact, the acting judge taught me at
Oh,
UWI
really?
now. Yes,
Okay.
he taught me at UWI.
Okay.
Yeah, he was a lecturer then. I think he probably is somewhat still connected with the University of the West Indies.
But we should point out, this is something we discussed, I think, maybe the first week when we started. We should point out that this is distinct from the other problem we have in Caribbean politics, where there seems to be a very fuzzy line between party and government.
Yeah, and perhaps perhaps something like this might even
Make it worse, you think?
it may even
Yeah,
add to it,
conceivably,
looking
yeah.
at it might even, because you have to really trod a very thin line to really ensure that you, even though you are, prime minister, or even though you are a minister of government, it's in our jurisdictions, the small jurisdictions, they still belong to parties. You really have to toe a very thin line to ensure that your national duties or your national responsibilities is not clouded by party involvement, and that these national events don't just become an extension of your party celebration.
And your party's PR.
Yes.
Like what do they call it? Your party's permanent campaign type
Yes.
thing. you know?
Yes.
And it kind of ties into the other thing I said is that you find that I've always had an issue with, if someone decides to, okay, you're a professional. You know how I was talking about, why not when a new government comes in,
Mm-hmm.
rather than just firing people wholesale? And I understand there will be exceptions in terms of the people that you're going to fire, because there were political appointments and,
Yeah.
But my thing is, as long as people are, okay, the prime minister should, you have a sit down with you call him somewhere, you could do it, it could be an address, and you say, listen, all of your petitions and divisions first.
Mm-hmm.
As long as you're professional, diligent, you do your job, you're disciplined, we're not going to have a problem. If you're going to let politics, if you're going to get politics interfere with you doing your job, then we're going to have a problem. I don't see what's so hard in that. Now, the other thing here is, if you have someone who, say, works for a government ministry and they decided to run for another party, that still doesn't mean that the person can't do their job until it is demonstrated that that person it was involved in misfeasance, malfeasance, and maybe let's say activities that would make the ruling government look bad, and even go as far as making the party that he represents look good. Then yeah, obviously that's a problem. But until you can demonstrate that, you have to give people the benefit of the doubt that they can be professional, impartial, and understand where the line between party and government is, you know?
Yeah. Even that is a very thought-provoking consideration.
I mean,
because what might happen, or what, if you're not careful, what might happen is that every state function becomes just another party function paid by the public purse.
well, this is where we need more robust and a more evolved check and balance system. You know, we like to say we're so progressive, but where are the real checks and balances with teeth and the regulations that are going to keep people within the rails of what would be considered ethical, being an ethical professional, an ethical politician, and all of that stuff. You know, I don't think it's really that hard to do. I just think that the political will isn't there, because I always think each successive government wants to be able to have the leeway to be not so good about governance, and I'm being kind there when I say that. If you read between the lines, okay, let me just say it. They wanna be able to have the leeway to maybe engage in corruption and stuff like that. That word keeps coming up on the show.
Yeah.
You know?
And I guess that's why it's important to have certain legislation in place and enforce to curb such occurrences as much as possible or reasonably practicable.
I want to read something as the judge said. As the jurisprudence on Caribbean constitutions continues to develop, we will see many of the long-held thinking on rights and freedoms being modified or even being rejected outright, such has been the case with the mandatory death penalty, buggery laws, and now public service regulations. This is not the first case in the region where similar prohibition of public servants becoming involved in the political process has been ruled to be unconstitutional. So I would not say that I am entirely surprised at the ruling. No, that was not the judge. That was the Attorney General, Dale Marshall. Yeah. So I thought it's good to see things moving forward and maybe, evolving.
Yes. And when it came to this development, we look at Antigua with the De Freitas case. It was De Freitas case where we had somebody working for government and they were on a radio station and owned by the government of Antigua. So that the whole chain of thought, the whole argument, the whole progress that we've seen today started a couple years ago,
Okay.
Yeah, and it's just start to develop. Yeah.
Because I think, for example, let's say you had a job and you ran and you were unconstitutional. You should go and find another job. I don't think that's fair. Especially if you demonstrated that.
Yes.
If you look back and you say, well, dude used to do his work. And,
it would take some,
and as far as I know, for example, Jackie Bryan still has a job, which is amazing. So it means she still has a job, right? As far as I know.
Yes.
Right, I think that was amazing.
Yes.
I don't think that would have happened maybe 10 years ago.
Yes.
Well,
I don't want to call out anybody because, the kind of atmosphere that we live in.
I'm just saying,
yes.
but we have to hold the politicians' feet to the fire.
Yes.
Trust me, they're far from perfect. But
yes.
So we should just as we like to roast them when they do crap, we should give them their props when they, when they demonstrate some. They demonstrate some evolved thinking. Maybe I'm going too far about evolved thinking. Maybe they just, I don't know. You know what? It's 8:14.
Okay, great. You have adjusted your time.
No, what happened is I'm gonna use the other clock.
Oh, the one that actually tells the right time.
If you want to put it that way. If you want to put it, let's take a quick break and come back on Island Tea.
We're different. We're 98.9. 98.9. Win FM.
This is your official invitation to the conscious party.
Get conscious, get down to business every Wednesday with Conscious Business. Join the Conscious Musical Reasoning with Selector Highest, Strictly Positive and Conscious Music on Conscious Business on WinFM 98.9, winfm.com. Vibes include Business Education Corner, Business Quote of the Day, Agriculture Time, and Mama Love Track of the Day.
Mama, I don't ever want to see you cry.
Conscious Business is brought to you by Like New Steam Cleaning. You too can get exposure and awareness for your business when you call WinFM's sales department to advertise here. Conscious Business is positive growth.
Horsford's Value Mart IGA specials from February 23rd to March 8th. Now our Blue Tag specials. Essential Everyday Baking Chips, just $10.99. Duncan Hines Fudge Brownies, $5.99. Kellogg's Pastries, just $10.99. Essential Everyday Apple Sauces, just $11.99 each. Sunny Delights, Tangy and Smooth, $4.99. Eggo Waffles, $13.99. And now, our very low weekly value deals. Pringles chips are just $8.49. Essential Everyday Croutons, $5.99. Essential Everyday Cornflakes, $8.99. Colgate Toothpaste, $8.99. Extra Liquid Detergent, $22.99. And Dial Soap is just $9.99. Shop smart, shop Value Mart. Sea listo y haga sus compras aquí a Value Mart.
Maybe it's the way the brilliant gold liquid reflects our sunshine, or how the bright blue of its label mirrors the clear Caribbean skies overhead. Maybe it's the fresh, crisp taste of this beastly cold beer on a scorching hot day. Maybe it's even the way it brings us all together. But one thing is for sure, Carib is very much a part of who we are wherever we're from in the Caribbean. Carib. It's the way we play. Drink responsibly.
You ever hear Earthquake call and say, "Hello, Miss Lee, yes, it's me, Earthquake, I come in Tuesday around 10? No, sir. Earthquake does arrive unannounced, and when it come, it shake all sense and sensibility out of we. Remain calm, stay inside, and do the DCH. Drop, cover, hold on. Once the shaking starts, you know it's earthquake. Make a quick move to a safe place. Don't run to the doorway or any exit. Stairs might block up or full of people. Elevator, avoid that because you might get in and poof, power gone, and you're stuck in that box without ear. Take cover under a strong table or a bed, or crouch against an inside wall or in a corner, and cover your face and your head with your arms. Remember, DCH, drop, cover, hold on. Glass windows and doors, outside walls and doors in an earthquake, bad news. Take care of yourself. Most injuries during earthquakes happen when something drops and hit people entering or exiting a building. Last thing, nobody run outside and ask, you feel it, you feel it? Remain calm, stay indoors until all the shaking stop, and do the DCH, drop, cover, hold on.
This message is sponsored by the Australian Government, AusAid, and produced by NEMA in collaboration with WinFM.
Back at you. How we do? History in the making.
Back at you. 18 minutes after 8 o'clock, Island T.
Yes.
We got a phone call coming in here. Let's see what this listener has to say. Caller, go right ahead. Okay. That person was actually calling during the oh, here we go again. Okay. Caller, go right ahead.
Oh, yes. Good morning.
Oh, hey. Good morning.
That Barbados case was interesting. The thing is, though, how do you draw the line? And where do you draw the line? If, for instance, you have somebody who's in public service but working behind the scenes in a political party. I guess you can say that we don't know, so ignore that. But suppose you have somebody, as you pointed out, in, let's say, broadcasting, who can, let's say, edit news. And you know how news can be edited to be either pro or anti. in a very nuanced way. How do you, where do you draw the line there?
But let's
See,
look at it.
this legislation is okay.
Let's say you edit news and perhaps it doesn't favor the way in which you edit it doesn't favor the ruling party, but it has nothing to do with your role in the public service. Maybe the editing of the news or whatever is, maybe a part-time thing, and maybe it is that you edit it in a way, of course, doesn't support the government, maybe because you are aligned with another political party.
Exactly.
So
and so what becomes important is appraisal systems, right? Because you have
but then
to be
even if you look at the editing of the news now, perhaps okay.
Yeah, that's the whole point. If you have good appraisal systems that can actually monitor your productivity and your competence and things like those,
yes,
then I can understand that. Okay, because then it will become clear if whether or not your party affiliation is affecting your work. But without those systems, I think most, especially in our environment, most people would say, listen, you don't have to be pussyfooting on this. He's not for us, or she's not for us. They should not be in a sensitive, what they would call a sensitive position like that.
Yeah.
Okay?
I think there's supposed to be some curtailing as it relates to which officials may qualify, and then I think
which is
based on circumstances again.
Which is why I had said that obviously there are going to be exceptions, that like to his point about people in sensitive positions.
Yeah,
but it's not restricted to that. I mean, you mentioned the point of somebody cleaning an office.
Yeah, if someone is cleaning the office,
these things get thrown in the waste paper basket. That can be.
But then,
detrimental.
but then, I mean, I think that stems over. Like, for example, if you're throwing away important documents, to me that's stepping over. That goes in another category. If you understand what I'm saying.
So that's in the malfeasance category.
Yeah, that's like you.
Malfeasance on whose part? The person who's not taking care of sensitive documents properly by not shredding them, or the person who finds them and goes through them?
Well, misfeasance maybe on one part and malfeasance on the other.
But someone could not openly support a party either and still do the same.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. And then, of course, there's this whole technology question of, suppose you're, for instance, on a fake profile, going into spending time on Facebook or whatever, refuting things and promoting things.
Yes.
During your lunchtime even. How do you, what do you regard as government time? For instance, all those things have to come into play. And it's not a clear. I think this decision is going to cause people to reflect and perhaps make some drastic changes to the whole public service organization, from top to bottom. And you wonder, it's really opening a Pandora's box, I think, here.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting, and it's going to be
Pandora's box? That's a little strong.
Too strong?
I just say it's a road
directly affected by this.
True. Well, I just
right, and so anytime you have that, there's always the possibility of abuse and misuse and all of that. So, it's going to be interesting to see what happens. But maybe as it is now, I don't think it's only the top civil servants, if at all, sign things like code of ethics and those kinds of things. in private industry, in some private industry, you have your handbook and you have to sign off on particular things. I don't think there's any oath of office or even signing off on things in the public service right now. Okay, certainly not at the lower level. And so, or even something like that may have to be looked at. But, some people might now be tempted to get more involved in the politics, even though they might be in the civil service. And
True.
That's definitely going to be.
And perhaps some very capable people as well.
Yeah, there's always that, because it does keep some capable people out. But you have to wonder whether the end justifies the means.
True.
Because capable people can resign and run for office, as they sometimes do, as it is now, right? They don't have to remain. They're remaining in the civil service, and still doing that may become problematic, right?
Yeah.
I mean, imagine, for instance, you're a permanent secretary. Your job is essentially guaranteed. There's very little limits on whether or not you remain in employment. And at the same time, you're going to be going on a political platform, maybe being critical of a policy, not necessarily in your ministry, but another ministry in the government. I mean, you may say that it's my constitutional right to do so, but is that really professional? I don't know. It borders. I don't see a minister right now allowing that.
Okay.
You can't be in my employ and then you're going outside there lambasting me. Something.
Okay. Well, but then that speaks to the freedom of speech as well. Okay, but I want to get to another topic before the next segment.
Sure.
The FAO, the UN's Food and Agricultural Organization, they just announced that Latin America and the Caribbean have the highest costs for healthy diets. Their studies have shown that the Caribbean and Latin America regions have the highest costs for healthy diets compared to other regions. In a statement, the FAO said it did an extensive analysis of how many people can, in fact, afford a healthy diet, one that offers a diversity of nutrient-rich food aligned with dietary guidance. And the way the numbers came out, it was done by Tufts University researchers and the World Bank, and the way the figures shook down, it was, let me start with, okay, the cost of a healthy diet compared to other regions at $3.89 per person per day in 2020, followed by Asia. So we have the highest, $3.89, so that's $3.89 US per person per day in 2020, followed by Asia, $3.72. Africa $3.46, Northern America and Europe $3.19, and Oceania $3.07. But I actually agree with this. But this is one of those cases where the statistical methodology isn't really relatable. Because let's just you say $3.89 for the Caribbean. Okay, so $4, so what, $11 and change on average. I don't know if that's a relatable metric to say that average, because you know what average is basically.
It's gonna be more or less.
So I think they needed to find another way to express that, because I'm thinking most people. I mean, I'm hearing this. I'm like, okay, $4 US.
And you're saying,
what can I buy? Yeah, because I can't really relate to that. And we all know that the real figure per person is different. So this is why averages sometimes are just not the best thing to use for.
And then they might have some countries that are higher in the grouping, and then some countries that are significantly lower. And so when you do the average, it comes in the middle.
It comes in the middle, and the middle obscures the truth in a sense.
Yeah.
Right?
Because what you're saying that the cost of a healthy meal might cost on average,
on
region,
average $3.89.
$3.89 US.
Yeah, $3.89 US, which said $4, $11.
Let's say $10.
$10. Well, if you round it up, $4, so $11.
Yeah.
Well, yeah,
10.
I think it's $10.80 or something.
Mm-hmm. So where can you get in St. Kitts a nice healthy breakfast for $10? Easy.
See, there you go. And that's just one meal. And that's just one meal for the day. You know? Okay.
But I do think I get the point though, because I think that eating healthy in this part of the woods, it's very pricey compared to if you were going to eat something unhealthy. It costs way more to eat healthy.
That is true.
And I think that might have been a deterrent for some persons, because they might be thinking, I could spend $5 on this or $18 on this.
Okay, 8:30, and we have a next segment coming up. It's World Engineers Day. Remember, we had Colin Brown and Micheline here last week.
Yeah,
and
we had
they kicked off the week.
MCH and Colin Brown.
Yeah.
Yes, MCH.
Okay, so we have them coming up next, Colin Brown and Surveyor Dwight Francis. That's coming up next.
The Sound 98.9 WIN FM.
Life is unpredictable. Don't miss the opportunity to provide your loved ones with the financial protection and peace of mind coverage they deserve with the Family Indemnity Plan from Kuna Caribbean Insurance. The Family Indemnity Plan covers final expenses such as funeral costs and outstanding debt in the event you or your loved one passes away for up to $30,000. No medical examination is required. Contact your credit union or one of their approved Family Indemnity Plan providers to enroll today. To learn more, call 466-9453 or 762-2973. Visit their website at kunacaribbean.com. Kuna Caribbean Insurance, for all people.
Island Tea Time, it's 8:34, the first weekend of March 2023, and it's World Engineers Day. And we got Colin Brown back here for the second time, and Surveyor Dwight Francis Morning, guys.
Morning to all. Let me say that World Engineering Day is tomorrow, and of course, we have, as Jamster indicated, some guests here in the studio who are going to speak about that good day, which we are going to be celebrating tomorrow.
You turning it over to us, Azard?
Yes, I'm turning it over to you.
All right, thank you, Jamster. Thank you, Azard. Thank you, WinFM. Myself, Colin Brown, as well, along with my colleague Dwight Francis, are here to celebrate, to recognize World Engineering Day, which is tomorrow, Saturday 5th. This is a globally recognized day to celebrate, recognize the contribution of engineering and engineers to our society, to celebrate not only engineers and their work, but also the other technicians and technologists that contribute to the profession, as well as encourage students and teachers of the science, technology, mathematics, engineering fields, which are the base educational subjects for the engineering profession. Encourage and support those students and teachers who are working to continue the profession and further the profession. So I am Colin Brown, electrical engineer of many years, and who also gracefully and I'm appreciative of Dwight for accompanying me today as well. Dwight is a land surveyor of many years, but it was opportune for him to accept the invitation, because land surveyors are also part of the fraternity and the profession of engineering. So, Dwight, could you introduce yourself as well?
Yes, good morning, everyone. My name is Dwight Francis, and I'm currently the Director of Lands and Surveys in the Ministry of Sustainable Development. And as Mr. Brown said, yes, we are part of the fraternity of engineers. As most persons would be aware, I went to the University of the West Indies in St. Augustine, and that's the engineering campus. So from a engineering point of view, land surveyors and civil engineers and mechanical engineers and industrial engineers and chemical engineers, it's all of us had classes together. So that is where we come in. So the fraternity is quite large, and it's important that, persons appreciate what engineers do, because as we look at the theme for this year, it's engineering innovation for a more resilient world. And as we see how the world is changing in terms of global warming and climate change, engineers stand to play a key role in combating some of these elements that can be devastating in our lives.
Mm-hmm. Of course, it is important to recognize, as you say, the work and contributions of engineers. Tomorrow is the day in which you guys celebrate
World Engineering Day.
World Engineering Day. Mm-hmm. And let me ask you a question. How do you think the reception, because you talk about schools, you talk about being educated at the high school level, and I'm sure this primary school level, do you think, or do you find that we have a lot of persons in the schools who are interested in going and developing skills in these areas, going off to university and developing skills in these areas?
That's an interesting question. Dwight and I happened to be discussing something very similar just before we entered the studio, and we are contrasting the support that the contrast between the support a student in another discipline, let's say art, mm-hmm. with the support of a student primary school student, secondary school student who has an interest in math but may be struggling. So yes. I'll admit I'm a terrible artist. However, when I experienced my challenges with art, I simply resigned myself. Art was not my thing. Yeah. That was not my talent. Mm-hmm. Though I've picked up photography and some other artistic expressions. We contrast it with sometimes the support when a student who has an interest in math or science starts experiencing some challenges, and the sentiment starts to form, math is hard.
Mhm.
And only these certain special people can do math.
Yes.
Notwithstanding, I count Dwight and myself among the special people.
Mhm.
Sometimes math is your thing.
Yes.
And so the support in the education system, I think we have strong fundamental education system. Dwight and myself are products of the Caribbean education system right up to the University of St. Augustine campus. we were at the same time and also stayed on the same hall of residence, Milner Hall. So the system is quite capable of producing world-class engineers, and this is not a recent development. Both Dwight and myself have also studied and practiced globally, and among our colleagues, we rank right there, along with our other Caribbean colleagues on the global scale. So in that regard, I think the education system has had success in encouraging STEM and producing professional engineers who produce work at a high caliber. But as well, we would like to promote it more. We want to have a passion, an organic passion, an appreciation, and an encouragement of more students. The engineering profession, the world we live in has changed such that the engineering profession and an engineering degree puts you in a good place for any profession you want to pursue.
Mm-hmm.
When I first met students who were pursuing undergraduate degrees in engineering, and I said, well, what do you want to be when you grow up? And they said, a doctor. And I'm like, a lawyer, a businessman, but their first degree is an engineering degree, which we will agree, I don't know if Dwight will agree, is not necessarily the easiest degree to achieve, yet still we see that broadening, and we want to bring that perspective to our communities, that an engineering degree is not only for those who want to practice engineering as a profession, but it is a solid educational background for any profession.
Well, let me ask about the let's call it the grassroots aspect of creating those engineers. I always get the impression from teachers that math comprehension and math education is lacking, and there seems to be a lot of math phobia in
I like
the
that
kids.
word, Jamster, math phobia.
Yeah, and so I'm wondering, as engineers, what would you guys suggest to combat that problem? Because that's like the very basic, that's like the bedrock for any engineering pursuit, right?
Yes, that is true, but it's important that in the education system, we show the students how these subjects are important for them, not just in school, but also in their daily lives. So in terms of mathematics, learning by the textbook is one thing. However, how is mathematics important for you? Take, for instance, Pythagoras' theorem and so forth. How do you calculate the distance from one place to the next?
So what you're saying is that there needs to be more applied math instruction
Much
at a lower level.
Yes, I
agree.
I do think so.
I agree.
And even things like basic measurements. If you're into architecture or even into other disciplines, some persons cannot they're shy away from measurements completely. But you have to look at measurements as a tool to assist you in your daily life. And a simple thing like, okay, I wanna travel from here to Sandy Point. Yes. So what's the shortest route should I take from here to Sandy Point? We know how the traffic system is in Mbas there. Okay, so I want to go from the airport to Downport Zante. Which route must I take? All of these are analytical skills that mathematics can help you to develop in your daily life.
I mean, something as simple, for example, I sometimes I try to explain to my wife that there a lot of times driving on the highway actually saves gas. And it seems counterintuitive to people, but to your point, if a lot of these things were explained at maybe an early age, because I told, and she goes, well, how? I said, well, if you're driving on a highway, if you're driving on the ring road, the bypass road, there are less stops and starts, so the engine is burning less gas, because when it comes to a stop, it takes more gas to build up momentum again, and these are things people don't understand when they drive through town. All the stops and starts, so all of those are engineering type
consideration.
Exactly.
Not to mention the wear and tear on your brakes and the increased pollution, but you're sounding like an engineer, Johnston.
and when we look at it, even in our other areas, like take for instance, with my day-to-day life as a land surveyor, when we look at the distribution of lands, one of the first things we have to take in consideration is drainage. And then we have to also look at soil type. So how would you examine the topography of the area and the geology of the area to determine which directions the road should go? How would you drain the water from the landscape to ensure you have minimum erosion, thus conserving the environment? What type of what size lots you should put on these parcels and so forth to ensure you get the optimum use of the land. In addition to that, what is the area zoned for? Because we cannot put everything everywhere. We cannot put mechanics between residential and so forth. So all of these are considerations you have to look at in terms of designing subdivisions. And, by looking at that, and one of the aspects we have to also consider in terms of the school, what I realize in terms of subjects that students are taking, is that some persons are not aware how these subjects and how subjects among the STEM path can help you in terms of a career and a steady career. And one of the things we look at is that, yes, mathematics might be a phobia for some, but look at it as a way of life. Look at physics, look at chemistry, look at geography. Those sort of subjects, you realize that though they might seem difficult to you now, once you grasp them in your daily life moving forward, they're going to actually be so easy for you to implement in terms of decision making that, it is good that we try to look at them in a different perspective.
If I could add to what Dwight has just said so well, when you grasp these subjects and disciplines, you see the world with a different set of eyes. A whole new world opens up to you. So if I can get a little bit teacher-esque for a moment, the same way we consider English and proficiency in English as a language, mathematics is a language, physics is a language, and similarly with English, as you gain competency, as your vocabulary improves, you can talk better, you can write better, you can express yourself differently now, you can do poetry, you can do essay. In the same way with math, as you get competency with the language, mathematics is the language of engineering. Full stop. Let's start at that point. But even because we live in a technical world and we've gone through various revolutions, whether it is the Industrial Revolution, the Green Revolution, the Technology Revolution, mathematics as a language is fundamental to how we interact with the world. English is not less fundamental, but mathematics and science has grown in prominence now to interact with the world and understand the world, understand that driving on the bypass is going to save wear and tear on your vehicle, save your maintenance, save your gas, save the environment. To understand that language, you need to understand mathematics. A little bit of physics as well, Dwight.
But as indicated, you find a lot of students shying away from these subjects because they figure that these are tough subjects. How do one help students or encourage students who might not be the best in math? Because just up to yesterday, I had a conversation with some of my students, not realizing that some of them didn't have math. And and they did well in other subjects. You understand? At the high school level, receiving ones and passes in other subjects, but you'll be surprised that some of them don't have math. And and I think when students are picking subjects nowadays, you find that students are picking subjects all over the place, the subjects that perhaps will give them the greatest benefit. And when I say the greatest benefit in terms of grade 1 passes, and because you find them doing one, maybe like a subject not bash or editing, you might see them still doing subjects like EDPM, and you wonder, okay, and then you see them doing something else unrelated to that, and you wonder, okay, how relevant, how relevant is a subject
especially
like
that,
EDPM
that,
right
that
now?
subject mix to it,
and having that
your
with
point.
other subjects. So you find that it's a crazy mix, and you find that a lot of them are trying to navigate away from the sciences as much as possible.
I do think that it comes down to the exposure.
Mhm.
I do think so. And, what I also realize is that sometimes it's the teaching environment. And I do also think that sometimes you have to take the take the child from the from the classroom and expose the child to the working environment.
Mhm.
Like take for instance, I look at the bottling company. Now, a child might be shying away from maths, but the child might like, let's say, one of the drinks at the bottling company. You can ask the child, why do you think this drink tastes like this? So now, based on what the child said, you can say, well, do you know, based on the chemical composition of this drink, you can change the taste of it?
I get what you're saying.
You understand?
So you make them in love.
Mhm.
You motivate them by showing them what they could achieve,
And they see the linkages,
and then they see the linkage
between
Yes.
everyday life and engineering and science.
I remembered when I was in Bastille High, when I did chemistry, and one of the things that caused me to really like chemistry was that I got an opportunity to create soap. I mean hand soap.
Yes.
And, by putting chemicals together, you can actually create the hand soap.
Yes.
And, the teacher taught us how you can add scents to the soap. So you can change the scent. So when you wash your hands, you say, well, oh, this smell like aloe vera, or this
Yes.
smell like raspberry. And you do that. In terms of physics and so forth, when I went to high school, not too long ago.
Of course, not too long ago.
Not too long ago. One of the experiments that we had to make.
Yes.
And I'm speaking about Bastille High School then. This is how our physics teacher actually got us to really love engineering and so forth.
Mhm.
One of the experiments that we had was to design a car indicator system.
Okay.
At Bastille High School then. And so it showed us how to use things such as, I don't want to be too technical, things like relays and logic gates and so forth. And by building that passion, you can then go on to further your education at the University of the West Indies. So
And
that is how we have to look at it
I
sometimes.
remember when I was in primary school.
Not too long
ago. And there was this competition. There was a science competition. I don't know if they still have it, where you would have to enter a project and you were graded. I can't remember what the name of that. I don't know if they
That
still
sounds vaguely familiar.
Well, what I can say,
if they still have that competition.
I don't know if they still have that
Yeah.
competition, because with the generations things change.
Yes.
But I do know there is currently a science competition underway.
Yeah.
Among the facilitators is the Ross University.
Okay.
And it's a multi-week competition between teams from various schools,
Mhm.
which will have the final judging and presentation in, I think it's mid-April. So there is presently a science competition underway between various schools in Ireland. I would provide the contact person's name right now, but I cannot remember their first name, not their last name. But to answer your question, Azard, yes.
Okay.
There is a competition presently underway. I don't know if it is that competition.
Perhaps not, because that was sometime not too long ago.
Okay, 8:53. World Engineers Day is tomorrow, Saturday, March 4th, and the theme for 2023 is Engineering Innovation for a More Resilient World. One of the things I think we would be remiss if we didn't touch on is the world we live in now, the paradigm we live in now, where computers run everything. And I always thought it was interesting that we sent off robotic teams multiple years that did very well, which seems to belie the fact that a lot of people, like I said before, are math phobic. I want you guys to talk a little bit about how important it is, how important the math is, and by extension engineering when it comes to coding and using everything that we use now, phones, smart TVs, smart watches,
Smart everything.
computer, smart everything.
So excellent points, and I'll tie it to resilience. So resilience is the capacity to operate under hazards and degrade gracefully. So while you want a system and infrastructure, society to be as robust and as reliable as possible in the face of hazards, whether they be climatic, economic, a pandemic, as we recently had. Depending on the hazard, there will be some impact. So resilience also has the aspect of, okay, we cannot operate at 100% because it's a hurricane, but how can we build systems that allow as much of normal functioning of society? So your phone has to be robust and resilient, because in a national crisis, whether it's a pandemic or hurricane, your lights might be off, what have you, might not be working, but you want to know you can depend on your phone. Even we could get into the technicalities of it, but it suffices to say that the more dependent we are on technology, from the obvious roads to the not so obvious, Wi-Fi that we can't see because it's a radio signal, and on and on and on. All these systems, the way code is coded, must be resilient. One bug must not crash your phone. Once upon a time, if you try to open too many browser tabs on your phone, that was it. So how can we ensure when you open the wrong web page or the right web page? So though we speak of resilience and we speak of engineering is a broad field that encompasses almost every aspect of technology.
Well, how do we move from just creating consumers to innovators? Because it's great to TikTok, this is amazing, but how do we get our people to start thinking about being the creators of all these types of platforms that we use every day? And clearly there must have been someone who had similar ideas, but where do we start in at least getting them to think about innovating rather than just being consumers?
Jamster, I would say, and of course we always want to encourage more innovation, and that would, at the fundamental level, involve access, inspiring, encouraging, providing support, encouraging our female technologists so that we have the full complement of society, encouraging our senior technologists. But when you speak of innovators and creativity, let me say this as best as I can. I'm not the biggest TikToker. I'm not the biggest
I just use that as an example.
Facebooker. No, I get where you're coming from.
Yeah.
But when I see some of the content and the innovative ways that our Caribbean brethren and sistren have utilized these platforms, I think by history and our culture, we are some of the most creative persons on the planet. And believe you me, we have no shortage of innovators.
We have to learn to harness that.
But I'll let Dwight contribute.
So in terms of the technology, yes, I say that we are a consumer type of people. And what we need to look at, you have to remember the government has an ITC center. And one of the things I think that we should start looking at is to see how the ITC Center can actually put on programs throughout the year to assist children that are in school and so forth. I know sometimes they do summer camps and so for 1 or 2 weeks, but I don't think that is enough in terms of, encouraging the kids to do coding. Because I know that, I know a few kids that are interested in learning Python, but it's difficult to learn Python or to...
One moment. We just went into engineering speak. So Python is a programming language, or a scripting language. Go ahead.
Yes, so and most of the kids only go as far as they can go in terms of doing it for CXC. But what happens after that? If they don't go to CFBC to continue doing information technology, how much more exposure do they get for coding? So I do think that the government has a role to play in terms of making the facility available to kids throughout the year so that they can practice their coding and see how they can improve on making software on the back end. Because sometimes we might see a smartphone and say, oh, this feature is nice. But however, knowing the technology and knowing the children of today, I show that they can improve it. But you have to provide them with the facility.
True. Okay, with that, it's a 9 o'clock. I'll give you guys the last word. You have 30 seconds each. We have the commissioner of police out there. We don't want him to arrest us. So
not at all. So thank you, Jamster. Thank you, Azard. Thank you, WINFM. To our engineering colleagues, thank you for the contribution you make to the world we live in, the safety, the security, the convenience, and to our science, technology, math, arts, engineering teachers and students. We support you. Keep up doing the necessary work, carrying the passion and the commitment that will put the engineering profession in a good position to continue to be a vibrant part of our community.
Yes, I too want to just thank Azard and Jamster for inviting us, and we just want to encourage persons to look at engineering as a way of life. And there's always something you can do once you're an engineer.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Don't forget World Engineering Day is tomorrow, March 4th. The theme is Engineering Innovation for a More Resilient World. If you want to read up more on World Engineering Day, go to unesco.org and you can learn all you want about World Engineers Day and maybe furthering your desire to become an engineer of some sort. It's 9:01. We've got the Commissioner of Police coming up next.
WINN is 98.9. 98.9 is Win FM.
TDC for service, TDC for quality. TDC your company, TDC for service, TDC for quality. TDC your company. Together we succeed, building a strong community, pressing onward to our destiny. One love, one family. Together we succeed. Let the whole world see. Yes, this is 50.
Horseroads Building and Nevis Centers are making lawn and garden easy. Come to Horseroads Building and Nevis Center now and get 25% off store-wide on our entire lawn and garden department. Yes! For the months of February and March, Horseroads Building Center and Nevis Center is making improving your lawn and garden easy with 25% off all garden supplies, garden equipment, garden accessories, including weed eaters, lawnmowers, and much more. Get 25% off all lawn and garden items happening now at Horseroads Building Center in St. Kitts and Nevis. Horseroads Building and Nevis Centers, making home improvement easy.
Maybe it's the way the brilliant gold liquid reflects our sunshine, or how the bright blue of its label mirrors the clear Caribbean skies overhead. Maybe it's the fresh, crisp taste of this beastly cold beer on a scorching hot day. Maybe it's even the way it brings us all together. But one thing is for sure, Carib is very much a part of who we are wherever we're from in the Caribbean. Carib, it's the way we play. Drink responsibly.
It's 9:04 and we've got the newly installed Commissioner of Police.
Yes. So, good morning to everybody. We have with us the new Commissioner of Police within the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis, Commissioner Sutton. Good morning, sir. How are you?
Good morning. I'm doing wonderful.
So, Commissioner, you are now in the top position within St. Kitts and Nevis and within the police force. Could you tell us, persons out there who might not know, about your story, about how you started and how you have gotten to this position here.
Thank you all. I have been. My name is James Sutton. I am the new Commissioner of Police of the Royal St. Christopher and Nevis Police Force. I was enlisted in the police force in 1987. Upon completion of my initial training, I was posted in the outstation, where I worked doing basically all policing duties, such as investigation, traffic, and whatever duties that were assigned to me. In 1994, when the uprising started, I was then transferred to the CID department, where my main focus would have been investigations. Having gone there, I was then I was introduced to the crux of investigation with one course, crime scene management. Having been trained in crime scene management, that gave me the impetus to focus on policing. I worked in the CID for 13 years, up until 2007, where I did basically all offenses there is. One of my favorite investigations was murder investigations, because I really wanted to represent the unspoken person. And bringing the persons who committed these crimes to justice. Yes. Having been transferred from the CID, I went to the Stapleton Police Station, where I began teaching and imparting my experience with my junior officers in the uniform branch. I worked there for 2 years. Then I was transferred to the white collar crime unit in 2009, where my focus then shifted from criminal investigations to financial investigations. At that time, the FATF was looking at many of our countries to have us standardized when it comes to financial matters. So there was a great thrust for us to focus in that realm at the time. During that time, I was able to make connection with many law enforcement agencies around the world. I had the opportunity to travel to the United States to look at their financial system as a part of the International Visitor Law Enforcement Program. This is a program that is extended to many countries, many persons from different countries, so we can meet in the United States to look at the American legal system, and we could able to network. So even though when we went there, we were able to network with persons from various places, from as far as New Zealand. So we were able to, up until today, I still do have that communication. I also had the opportunity to travel to Italy to look at the Italian system, financial system. So I'm well versed when it comes to financial investigation. I also obtained, I'm the only certified anti-money laundering specialist within the police force. Having been transferred from the white collar crime unit, I was more in a managerial position, so I was transferred to Division B, that is in the Sandy Point district, to provide support to the commander-in-chief there. I was then transferred again to the professional standard department, because I'm one of the persons who believe in discipline, and without discipline we will go nowhere. So I was then transferred to the professional standard, because again, at the time, a lot of interest was being placed on the way police treat the public who we served. And external agencies had a concern in that area as well. So a lot of interest was being put there to strengthen that area, because they believe the abuse of police officers abusing their power was of concern. And we are not here to abuse our power. We are here to serve the public, and we must serve the public respectfully. I then was promoted and transferred to the Nevis Division to serve that division with all the expertise that I have acquired. having been transferred to Nevis in 2021, I was able to reduce the crime rate by 15% in the last year. I think based upon the record reduction, it was the first time since 2005 we had one homicide. I practice a policing strategy called hotspot policing. Where that is concerned is that we look at areas that are hotspots or persons who are known to us based upon our data. And because that is one of the lead areas to reduce and prevent crime prevention. It's a twofold mechanism or approach in that you engage person who commits crime, but at the same time you do community policing as well. We're trying to reach out to these persons who are along that path, because these persons tend to believe that they have been isolated from the society. The other portion of it is that we're able to reach out to the persons in the community and see how best we can serve them when it comes to their safety and security. So now that I have been promoted to the rank of Commissioner of Police, I'm hoping that to get the support of all persons as we try to make St. Kitts a safer place for all to benefit.
Thank you, Commissioner. In fact, you have spoken about a number of things that you have done and the experience that you have that puts you well positioned to serve the people of St. Kitts and Nevis in this capacity. So previously, before assuming this role, you were in charge of the Nevis area. What are some, you've spoken about abuse of power perhaps with the police force and that being a concern at one point in time. What are some other areas you think could be improved as it relates to policing and the police force?
Okay, a number of areas can be used to address some of the issues. We can look at the way the police respond to persons, the way we communicate with people. So we have to look at our training needs. We have to look at our traffic, the number of accidents we are having, because that is one of another area that we have of concern to me. We got to look at our relationship with other agencies because we need cooperation. We need partnership. We need to support each other. And we have to look at technology. How best can we maximize technology? So these are areas I believe that we have to look at. We have to look at the human resource within the organization. One of the areas we can look at that with training. How do officers conduct themselves? The deportment, because that speaks a lot. Mm-hmm. Because if police officers do not present themselves properly to the public will not speak with them.
Issues that you wish to have addressed. Over your time as commissioner, what do you envision for the police force? I'm sure you would have some sort of vision towards where you want to see the police force reach into.
Well, my vision for the police force is to have a professional organization. Mm-hmm. So we have transparency and consistency in whatever we are doing.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Also, too, when you started within the police force, would you have ever imagined reaching to the top position like you have now? Not everyone reaches to this position. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I never envisioned that for one moment. As I said, maybe 5-10 years ago, I could not have imagined that. But I believe having been in the organization for over 3 decades, I have seen a lot. Mm-hmm. I have come across a lot. Mm-hmm. And I think that in whatever we do, we have to go to transition. We have that transition period. And I think being promoted to this or appointed to this position, this is my opportunity to put whatever I've learned over the years into practice.
Mm-hmm. So you have now other persons who have moved up in rank within the police force. What would you say to persons out there who are interested in becoming police officers? What would you say to a young man who comes to you, or a young lady who comes to you and says, Commissioner, I wish to join the police force?
Well, I will welcome it because the police force give you ample opportunity. Look at my track record, because I'm a humble person, come from humble beginnings. Where in the world you would have got the opportunity to travel to the United States Department, go to Congress, go to Italy. There are lots of opportunity and opportunity for your development as well, because we have programs, educational programs. You might not have all the qualification, but we have offered areas where a person can improve themselves academically. And at the same time, you're making our country a safer place for all to benefit.
Yes. So, Commissioner, you have identified the issues, you have identified what your vision is, you have stated what it is that you would say to young persons who are willing to come into the police force. Could we open up the phone line for calls? Yeah, because persons might be wanting to give, words of congratulations. Persons might want to have the opportunity to speak to the Commissioner of Police.
Okay, it's 9:15. We've got the brand new police commissioner, Mr. Sutton, is in studio. You can call us at 466-0989, 662-0989, and 762-0989 for the commissioner.
So, Commissioner, we're going to take it to a more social question. How did the news impact your family and friends when they heard about your elevation to the position?
To be honest, they were my family and friends. I don't think they have come down from the euphoria as yet.
Yes,
because they have all looked at me as a role model and the way I've carried myself, the way I take my job seriously, and to see that I have now reached the top. They're just overwhelmed with the success that I have reached. My friends, I didn't know I was so popular.
Yes.
So many persons were looking at me and admired me over the years.
Yes.
And when these persons reach out to me, sometimes when I do reflect upon it, I just gotta sit up and thank the Almighty for the blessings He has placed on my life.
Excellent. So, Commissioner, is there any final or lasting words that you would like to give as it relates to what you will want to tell the people of St. Kitts and Nevis at this time?
Well, what I would like to say to the people of St. Kitts and Nevis is to come and partner with us. Because with partnership, we will achieve success together. The police are tasked with preventing crimes, but over 90% of the times when crimes are committed, the police are absent. And you, the public, are the ones who normally be present. So I know that some person might be apprehensive in the way coming to the police, but that is the justice system. We have to trust the system.
Commissioner, we have two calls.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
Caller,
go right ahead.
Good morning.
Good morning.
My first response was I was rather astonished when I heard the new commissioner tell us that there is a standards department in the police department. One wonders when one sees on the streets that there is such a thing. However, a couple of issues. One, he spoke about communication with the public. One of the ways in which the police could improve their ability to communicate with the public is to add to the number on their shirt the name of the officer that one is speaking with. It becomes more personalized. Who is going to remember that they spoke with Officer 507 as opposed to remember that they spoke with Officer Williams? Two, this is 2021. When are we going to do away with this notion of WPC? We don't think about W Permanent Secretary or W Customs Officer. Why do we have women police officers as opposed to just police officers? Are they somehow different or less than their male police officers? I think that's a colonial habit that we need to get away from. As far as appearing to be fair to the community, I would encourage the commissioner when he gets back to his office to look out of his window onto Lozak Road and ask, why is it that just outside of his office, day after day, motor vehicles are parked on the sidewalk on the northern side of that road, including many vehicles owned by the police department or driven and owned by police officers. Those are just some of the issues I trust that our new commissioner will address in his new role, and I wish him all success in his endeavors. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Warner. Commissioner, you care to respond to those?
Yes, I welcome constructive criticisms because that is how we are going to grow. Yes, I'm aware of some of these. For example, the colonial habits. That's something that is enshrined in us. Is that because sometimes we refer to WPCs or officer, but the reason why sometimes we distinguish WPCs because we only refer to police officers by their last names.
Yes.
Okay, and you may have a Williams. So to make the distinction, because you don't really remember, sometimes you don't refer to people by their number as such, but you will say WPCs. So you have an idea of identification.
But you could use her first name.
Okay.
And then usually you can tell it's a female.
But we don't really refer a person by their first name. Because
I remember in the Caribbean link-up.
In the Caribbean with her surname, that's what I meant. Yeah.
I mean, in the Caribbean link-up, when I refer that we have a new commissioner of police, Commissioner Sutton, I remember Mr. Springer saying, "Oh, be specific," and say James Sutton. Right. But I know, because my mother was a police, that oftentimes when you refer to each other, you don't use the first name at all. So you might talk and say Douglas, you might talk and say Sutton, you might talk and say Woodley, Gumbs, but hardly ever would use the first name.
Commissioner, we have another call coming.
We have another caller.
Island T for Commissioner Sutton. Go right ahead.
Yes, good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning.
Okay, for the commissioner, real quickly, we know we've been looking at a spike in the violent crimes. Is there any special tactic they're going to use to try to curb that? And the gang mentality of the guys there now and the crimes. There's been a lot of gang activity in the recent years. Some people have used the strategy of leaving the older guys them alone and targeting the youngsters in the schools. So I want to know if this commissioner are going to try to put in some work, or have they been doing any type of visits to the schools to talk to the youths in order to try to mold the next generation? And lastly, now that we have a new commissioner, is the commissioner going to give the police officers a makeover in terms of, new uniforms and dress codes, like that type of stuff? We know the officers are working out in the heat, and are they going to, get like a makeover in terms of the uniform, like, maybe some polo shirts, some more casual designs? That's my quick questions. And good luck to you, man, and the best of luck in your new role.
Thank you, caller.
Okay, let me deal with the first one, the spike in violent crimes. As I've said, my approach would be targeted hotspot policing. This will fall in the realms of what I spoke of earlier, where we identify persons and areas and give it more attention in regards to crime, because that is by having that presence in these communities and engaging these persons is a way of reducing and preventing crime, because the police main job is to prevent crime. If we can prevent crime, it costs country less, it costs everyone less, it costs the pain. So we have to, our main focus is prevention than detection. Yes, we have a unit called the National Crime Intervention Team that communicates with the schools. And even though you have that unit, you also have school liaison officers assigned to different schools. That I will have to put some more interest into, because our youths mean a lot to us, and if we can deter these persons from going along going outside the realms of our normal behavior, that will go a long way. Because sometimes, most of the time, some of these persons do need some community person to speak with them and show them and encourage them a different way of life. And it's not up to the police only. The persons in the community could contribute as well. Because you, a person who are living in the community, would have a better assessment of the persons who are going astray. The schools, I think all of the schools are equipped with guidance counselors who can lend their support and collaborate with the police in this respect.
I have a question, Commissioner. Where do you think the weapons are coming from, and how do you intend to address the problem of all these weapons on the streets?
Okay, we suspect the weapons could be coming from a number of ways because, we have porous borders. That is one. It could be a few times we have seen them come to the legal port. And that is why I said we have to strengthen the cooperation with different agencies. With the cooperation with different agencies, persons might be aware of the trends that are taking place.
Let's go to the phone lines. Caller, go right ahead. Okay. We go on to the next line. Caller, Island T for Commissioner Sutton. Go right ahead.
Hi, good morning. I know the commissioner isn't on his job, but I would like to find out if there were any charges raised for any of the four murders we had this year, 2023. Anyone was charged? Any of the four murders?
Yeah. Thank you for your call and your questions.
Okay, out of the four murders, these matters are still on the investigations. We are waiting scientific results on two of them. So when we do get back those results, we'll know where we are when it comes to charging of persons. But murder investigations are never closed. Sometimes they take longer period than necessary, but we have to continue to pursue our investigation. I know the public would like to get the results as quickly as possible so we can take the offenders out of our communities. But we at the same time, we have to be transparent and we have to be fair to persons.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah, back to the phone lines.
Back to the phone.
Island T for Commissioner Sutton. Okay, that person. We're still taking your calls, so let's get your calls. Okay, here we go. Back to the phone lines. Go on, caller. Island T, go right ahead.
I'd like to hear the Commissioner of Police's take on the tinting of vehicles. I know there is a law, and in the interest of time, I wouldn't even speak to the law. I know he is there to represent it and enforce it. However, sometimes I think, it may be a waste of resources to be stopping vehicles with tint of a certain degree. Because, take for instance, a panel van. Anybody, criminal intent or otherwise, could be driving that. And you wouldn't necessarily stop a panel van, just to search if you have a suspect. There's a reason why each vehicle has a number. And I know people with criminal intent may change that number to hide their nefarious actions. But I think in several occasions, the stopping of vehicles, it's not only time-consuming, but I don't know if it's an ideal placement of resources in such a small place. Let me hear his take on that, please.
Caller, thank you for that call or concern, but the law is very clear. The law speaks to the level of tint that a vehicle must be placed on the windows, and I really like to encourage persons to adhere to the law. Okay. The police stop vehicle as a preventative measure most of the time because we would not know what who is being traveling in these vehicles when they are darkly tinted. And it is not only a concern to the public, to the police, but also to the public. Because if you get into an accident with a person and the vehicle is darkly tinted, and as you mentioned, if they can change the number plate, so who would you say would have committed that infraction? So what I would say, like to encourage person to do is to desist from darkness, to go outside to breach the legislation when it comes to tinting. Let us adhere to it. It is if you think it should be the level should be increased, you speak to the relevant persons so the amendment can be made to suit your cause.
Okay. We have any more calls? Okay, Commissioner. We are winding down because we are supposed to be having fire talk. So, Commissioner Elil, final or lasting words. I know you were given those. Do you wish to continue what you were saying in terms of your lasting words?
My lasting words are I would like to continue the partnership with the community. The police force cannot do the job of crime prevention by ourselves. Let us pool our resources together, the community, the police, the government, and let us think it to a better place for all to benefit. Let us all support each other. We may have personal differences. As human beings, we're going to have infractions. But there are many ways to deal with these infractions. At the end of the day, the safety and security of all in St. Christopher and Nevis is paramount to all of us.
Okay. Thank you so much, Commissioner. Congratulations again on your appointment into the position. We wish you well here. And, of course, the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis wishes you well, as if you do well, it means that we are here in safe hands. So thank you very much for accepting the invitation, and we do wish you well in your endeavors.
Thank you, Mr. Gumbs and the management and staff of the WIN FM for the opportunity for me to represent the police force. I think it is important for us to reach the public, to spread our message, because by educating the public, it gives us a better understanding of each other, and we're able to partner in whatever we set out to do, and then we're able to achieve all the success. Thank you very much on behalf of the entire police force.
Okay, no problem, sir.
It's 9:32. That was newly appointed police commissioner, and we've got Fireproof coming up next.
All right.
Sardine have a new Brunswick sardine fillet. It have a new vibe, you hear when me say. Run go to your favorite supermarket or corner shop and grab a couple tin today. Cause this a sitting where everybody a go like. Brunswick sardine have a new vibe. 5 different flavors for you to try. Brunswick sardine have a new vibe. Plus it boneless, oh yes that's right. Brunswick sardine have a new vibe. And with nutrition in every bite, it tastes nice. Brunswick sardine have a new vibe.
Hey kids, drink healthy!
Reduce sugar chubby with the same great taste. Lots of magic fruity flavors, drink the more healthy way.
It tastes so yummy, chubby, chubby.
25% less sugar chubby. Be active, be healthy, drink lots of chubby. Kicking football, playing cricket, having fun in the sun.
It's chubby.
Reduced sugar chubby keeps you cool and refreshed.
It tastes so yummy, chubby, chubby.
25% less sugar chubby. Jumping rope, running races, have fun.
It tastes so yummy, chubby.
Drink the more healthy way.
You want to do this? Okay. Now keep in mind that I'm an artist.
It's 9:33. We've got Fireproof coming up next with the fire officers. So we've got Fireproof coming up momentarily. Just sit tight. As we stand by for Fireproof, I did have Azard. I did have a comment from someone on World Engineers Day. The commenter said, "Good topic, but in regards to subject choice, the issue is with the school and the Ministry of Education. They lump subjects in groups called alternatives that makes it difficult for students to select based on their interests." We can get back to this.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know how they do it in schools now. Maybe that could be one of the reasons. But that should have made the selections even better rather than so diverse, like all over the place.
But then I guess you could also say if a student wants a mix that doesn't seem to make sense to us, who are we to tell them?
Yeah.
Well, you should. I want to do painting and I want to do physics. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So I don't know. Okay, so it is time for Fireproof. Good morning, officer. Grab a mic. Yes. It is 9:37 and Fireproof.
9:37. It's Fire Talk here. So, how has it been so far, officer? How has it been?
Well, good morning to you, sir. Good morning to the listening audience. It has been wonderful thus far, got up this morning feeling good.
No emergencies.
No emergencies this morning, and I'm happy to be here on the program.
Yes.
Well, maybe you might have some further light to shed where that is concerned. Okay. All right.
Yes. So we're here. We're going to be talking about
Carib wave.
Wave. And for persons out there who might be wondering, what is Carib wave? What is it?
Well, Carib wave, it's an exercise, an annual tsunami exercise, and this is to help the Caribbean countries to get ready, to be prepared in the event of a tsunami. We know that a tsunami is generated by, let's say, an underwater volcano or some sort of heavy earthquake, a great magnitude in the water, which would have the ripples of the water rise and extend inland, and these can cause some severe devastation to once the water reaches shore.
Yes, indeed. God forbid, I mean, for any such occurrence to happen here. And we've seen, these little tremors happening.
And we have to be mindful that we are living on an island. We are living on an island surrounded by water. Oh, here we have our guest speaker.
Yes. So we have the individual who would speak on Carib Wave, the training.
The exercise, yes.
Yes.
This is Superintendent Lyndon David of the St. Kitts and Nevis Police Force. And I would let him let the general public know all his responsibilities in relation to his duties as a police officer.
Good morning to everyone. Good morning, my host and my co-panelists. It is indeed a pleasure to be here, one representing the Royal St. Christopher Navy's Police Force, and to enlighten our community regarding the Caribou 23 exercise. I am the divisional officer for Division B. That means I have the rank of superintendent, and the entire area from Rasgut go around to Sandy Point to Lodgegut. That's my area of responsibility. In terms of where disaster is concerned, I am the liaison between the police and NEMA, and I also assist with the tsunami warning focal point. And the tsunami warning focal point is that government-established body, which is operating 24 hours, that will receive the necessary messages, or we call them protocols, from the Pacific Tsunami Warning Center in over there in the U.S. territory, Alaska, so to speak. And once these focal point get that, they will go through the message, determine the time when it took place. First, we have to remove it from the UTC time to our local time. So they have to do some time conversion. So therefore, the UTC time is 4 hours ahead of us, so they will have to make that deduction. And that is very critical. So when we hear about the estimated time of arrival, that deduction has to be correct. If you overestimate, it can be good, but if you underestimate, by the time as we respond, it will be too late. So therefore, they are responsible to ensure that the messages are sent out in a timely manner to the respective bodies. First, we go to the coordinator of NEMA, then we go to police, then we have to send it also over to NEVIS by the director over there for disaster management. And then we'll have responsibility. Apart from the tsunami warning focal point, the role of the police, defense force, fire, very critical. Because if, say for example, that we will be impacted, we'll have to go and inform persons to evacuate and head to higher ground. The evacuation, we know that persons must go to higher ground, but however, there are assigned assembly points, safe zones. So our exercise will be in the Bastille area, and it will be on the 23rd of this month. And we look at from Sundown Road in the east to Cenotaph in the west. North and south, we have the Bay Road, and we can extend it as far as to the north as Keon Street. So that will be our sphere of operation. We are hoping that the businesses and the other government departments that we contact, that they will fully participate. The main goal of the exercise basically is to test our tsunami readiness. Because once a tsunami will impact St. Kitts and Nevis, based on what the experts have said, it travel fast like a jet plane. Now, there are 3 types of tsunamis. Originally, I must say. We have the distant, so it can happen off the coast of Africa, and depending on the magnitude, so basically about 6.5 and more magnitude in shallow water can trigger an earthquake. And also apart from a tsunami, apart from an earthquake, we can have soil movement, earth movement. You can have land slippage under the ocean, you can have volcanic eruption that can also trigger a tsunami. Once that is done, we realize we have also, so once the distance, we have regional. So we can have one happen within the Caribbean region. Depending on the magnitude and the depth, it can impact us and impact us heavily. Then we have the local tsunami. Now the local tsunami are those that happen in our waters. Now that's the one that is more concerned and we want people to be alerted of. You see, recently we had earthquakes in Syria and Turkey synonymously. Those earthquakes, based on the damage done on land, you realize they were done inland. So therefore, the earth opened up, buildings fell down, if it had happened in the water, chances are it could have triggered a tsunami locally there, and maybe some regional areas would have been affected. So once persons have evacuated and the instructions of the police, defense force and fire, it is now important for them to go to the safe zone. If they do not know where the safe zone is, just go to higher grounds. For Basti area, we know Basti is below sea level. So F.T. Williams Highway, as the airport, anything above that is away from the impact of tsunami. So therefore, it is also said by the expert that the maximum effective range of the tsunami inland could extend to about 2 miles in. So therefore, beyond that, you could see the force start to slow down. Now, persons seeing the water moving in some strange ways, especially beachgoers, they have to be mindful of that. I remember a few years ago in Indonesia, there were some beachgoers, and they saw a strange phenomenon. What that was, the water started receding out to sea. Many went to look, but suddenly it just came back with a force. They couldn't outrun it. Like I said, it traveled fast as 2 jet planes. So therefore, many lives were lost. And then when you look at the height of the waves, you imagine you have a coconut tree almost like, say, 2-3 stories high, and the wave reach all the way up there. It shows the volume of water. And to also encourage person to realize the impact of a tsunami, we also would like to let person look at what they call Japan tsunami. You know, Japan is just synonymous with tsunamis. So therefore, there's one in particular I like to see. You hear the sirens going off, you see birds flying, and you hear the sound of the water coming. And all you see is just a body of water just flow coming. And there was this high wall, it went over it, and then it just started coming. Because tsunami is just a series of waves. And there was this maybe about 5-story building. After a few minutes, you just see the building start floating in the water. So these tsunamis are very destructive. And in terms of Bastille, we know a number of our buildings, they're built for a very long time. So in terms of their foundation, they too probably can float in the water. Our modern construction, I really do not know if they're building for that, but you know, we may have to have experts come to say how deep we have to go, what you all have to put there and so forth. But as time goes on, and Japan has developed that technology to start to build, instead of going to the mountains, because it could be a distance, build high-rise that can withstand the forces of the water that will come in, and also the effects of the earthquake.
There's one thing I wanted to point out about tsunamis. I have noticed when talking to people about tsunamis, most people tend to think about the tsunamis only coming from that way because that way is the Bayfront, not realizing that the tsunamis can come from any side, right?
We are surrounded by
exactly.
water.
But I've noticed people seem to think that, oh, that's a Bayfront, that somehow tsunamis have manners and they're only going to come through the front door, you know. So
it all depends on where
the earthquake
is located.
Okay. So there are, I imagine, of course, there are plans for. I know I see signs up at the top of Victoria Road for, you know, obviously. So there are similar signs in the other parts of the island for.
Yes.
Okay. All right.
Yes.
And one of the things we would like to let persons realize so that there are times that apart from the official announcements, like I mentioned, the local tsunamis, once you feel the earth shook close to about a minute or so, very hard, especially if the epicenter is not on land, chances that it could trigger a tsunami. So we have very little response time. But I want to tell our community that for the past few years, we have been certified. We have put all the necessary systems in place. We have the drills, and we are showing that we are doing what we can to make sure that we are tsunami ready. And this, what we're doing now, and the tsunami exercise that is coming up, is just one of the means in which we are putting forward so that we can continue to be tsunami ready. So we are encouraging persons that if for some reason you are in the area of exercise and owner of a business say, okay, we're running a drill, you have to be part of it. Do not argue, just comply and thing. And if for some reason, again, we have to redirect traffic or block a road or something, we're asking the motorists just to cooperate because it's just for a little while, and it is for all of us safety. And like I said, the entire NEMA mechanism is there for the safety and security of the Federation when it comes to disaster management and mitigation.
Would the exercise be taped?
Well, yes, based on my information, we will do all of that because what is required of us is that the exercise control overseas, they're saying, okay, apart from your writing, send us pictures, send us videos, and these things are attractive. And we have the Nevis end as well. They also put forth a scenario. Our scenario in St. Kitts may not be the same as that in Nevis, but basically it comes to the same umbrella that we have. So at the end of the day, the entire federation will be safeguarded. And the relationship is very great. And so that we know that when it comes to disaster, we all have to be players in it.
Yes. Did we touch on whether the type of participation, virtual and
yes,
and the partial evacuation?
Yes. Well, we intend to have. There are some businesses because of their operations for an exercise, they may not want to disrupt that. So we will be having our virtual exercise. So they will be able to tell us, okay, in a case of an emergency, it's practically a tsunami, these are the steps we will do. So therefore, they're testing their emergency and evacuation plans. And this is very critical for our tsunami readiness. Those businesses who have indicated, look, we're going to have a partial evacuation, they will be saying, look, our employees and patrons will participate in it. And we'll have our evaluators to see how well they did. And at the conclusion of it, we'll then start to find out what went well, what went wrong. So next year, God's will, we'll be able to better that. And I could recall last year we had our exercise in Old Road. And one of the things that came out, some people say, yes, I know about the exercise. And I believe I know what to do. But it's just that they didn't move.
Let me ask a question. Are there any? I know when I watched footage of the major Japan, tsunami. I noticed that there were a lot of buildings. In fact, some of the video that I saw, it was people shooting from on a building. So, are there any designated buildings? Maybe buildings that are deemed structurally likely to stand high enough and likely to stand in the case of let's say a typical tsunami where for example people would be asked to maybe try and go to the roof because there might be a likelihood that you'll be fine if you go to the roof of certain buildings, like say Blakeney Flats, maybe I don't know, the Anakin Tower could probably hold 10 people.
One of the things we are saying, because a good number of the buildings in Basti area, they were there for a very long time.
Yeah.
And I know, especially in the Bay Road area, there are some buildings, some areas you dig a bit deep, you see water come up. So therefore, those buildings may be easily waterlogged and fall down.
Yeah.
But I don't think we have done a test on that yet, but for now, we will like to encourage people best to move away. One of the things I would like to tell persons before, during, and after a tsunami. Before, the tsunami warning focal point will give the estimated time of arrival of the first wave. That wave, we do not know the size, but more than likely just be a trick, but then you see more and more coming. Once we get that, the emergency personnel, we have some time to work with it. So if you say within 15 minutes, emergency personnel know they have, say, 30 minutes to work with because you just can't go exactly on the 15th. After we would have done so, they too have to go to higher grounds. This is the thing I want persons to get because some party might say, okay, they're supposed to go into this, they're supposed to go into that, but My life is in danger, and something that is coming will totally eliminate me. So we want persons to get accustomed. When these drills come, try as much as possible to participate, know where the ins and outs are, you know. So therefore, the first phase will be evacuation, notification and evacuation. That's before. Now, during, you must be at higher ground, because what happened? If you get trapped in the water, most of the time you're not drowned. You'll be crushed by objects. You know, because remember I said we see building moving, so all sort of debris will be coming from all over. And then you can be crushed and all these things. You cannot swim away from it. Then after, you have to wait for the all clear from the authorities. Because water's still there, we do not know the depth. You think, oh, the road is there, you step in, the water above you, you drown. One person, do not go back to where you are. Once the water fully receded and the all clear is given, there's still another hurdle. The debris has to be moved. There might be houses and trees and vehicles. It is best that let the emergency personnel, police, public works, civic-minded persons who have big trucks, backhoes, bulldozers, whatever, to help remove the debris. Once all that is done, and then we tell person, then you can go back. That would be good. So the all clear may come after all of that. But the all clear could have stages. Okay, the water has receded, but still we have work to do to clear up the debris. Then you will have our persons now can go and check on their premises, whether it's businesses or homes, see if it's there and what you have to salvage. We hope that people would not seek this opportunity to go and, you know how it is, loot.
Yes.
Right? And that normally happens after hurricane, earthquake that cause destruction. Tsunami, well, everything waterlogged, so I don't see how much you can get from that. You know, but these are the 3 stages that we are looking at, and we want to caution persons to just be minded. The first time when you get the evacuation alert, evacuate. Then stay at higher grounds. Don't go back and say, I have this there, no. After you get the all clear, then you can go out. During the time of moving with the heavy equipment, don't go there and make things worse. If you're going to help, well, provide the assistance. But if not, stay away so the officials can function.
One other question. There have been a lot of minor earthquakes over the last few weeks, and I was just wondering if there was has there been any guidance from, say, the seismological people and from the regional people who look at these things in terms of having you guys make sure people are aware of these?
Yes, well, throughout the region, a lot of things being said, but what I would say regarding this.
Well, actually, wait. Let me clarify. What I meant is the fact that we've been having all these tremors. Has there been any guidance that there's a likelihood that maybe we might have a major?
Yes.
Okay, that's what
I will say to you. The experts are saying that we due a major earthquake in the region. Because, they would like to say, some people say every 10 years, every 20 years, every 50 years, every 100 years. Because, we had a tsunami that did some damage in our federation many years ago. We can't remember that it happened before us, but we just have to read about it, And when we look at earthquakes that are taking place in different parts of the world, like I mentioned, Turkey and Syria, severe destruction. And then we had Haiti, just Haiti, right? And we are feeling earthquakes. God is good for us here right now in the region. We're in that, we're seeing 3 point something, 4 point something. They're not much to worry about, but persons who are not aware about these things, they will get frightened. But when we look at 6.5 going up, well, you know that destruction will follow those things. And then sometimes the aftershocks, also, they are destructive as well.
Yes. Okay, it's a...
Sorry, what we do know, though, is that there is a Caribbean plate, and then the North American plate meets with the Caribbean plate, and that is why Haiti had such a devastating earthquake, because those plates actually start to move against each other. So there is plates within the Caribbean.
All right, it's 10 o'clock. I'll give you guys the last word so you can wrap. It's fireproof, and we have our special guest, Lyndon David. And just quickly let listeners know when Caribou Wave is happening. And
Okay, once again, two persons who might have just joined us. I am Superintendent Lyndon David. Myself and Timothy Martin, I forgot to mention that we will be the exercise control. So we'll be providing some of the scenarios. Right? And then we have Mr. Rommel here. He'll be one of the responders, I believe. Yes. So the tsunami Caribou Wave 2023 will be held on the 23rd of this month. And we are encouraging persons to participate and go along as we move along, because we want everybody to understand their roles and responsibilities before, during, and after a tsunami if we were to be impacted. But we will continue to be prayerful that we will not be impacted, but we still have to be prepared for any eventuality. So, exercise, we will ensure that all of our stakeholders are on board and they know what to do. And our greatest stakeholders will be our citizens. So, please, everyone, remember, once we're doing our exercise, as much as possible, participate, cooperate, and be educated. Participate, cooperate, and we will certainly educate.
Okay.
Currently, NEMA has been going around to business places, inviting them to be a part of the exercise. Now, for businesses that did not receive that invitation and want to be a part of that exercise, they could always call NEMA at 466-5521 and register to be a part of the exercise. And I would encourage all to be a part of the exercise. We need to know that our citizens are ready in the event of a tsunami.
Caribou Wave. And that was what a Fireproof today was all about. It's 2 minutes after 10 o'clock. We've got your view coming up with Sandra Quilly. That's next. And guys, once again, fire-free week. And
that's right.
Yeah. Enjoy your weekend and stay safe.
Same to you guys.
And that's going to do it for Island Tea. You guys have a great weekend. Your view is next.
We're different. We're 98.9. 98.9. Win FM.
So who you left the kids with tonight? Nobody. They're big enough to take care of themselves. Girl, you mad? Junior only 7 years old. And suppose something happened to the baby while you're out here? My mother was leaving me home by myself since I'm 5. He can handle it.